All right, this video we're talking about air disc brake, and specifically we're going to be doing showing you how to do a running clearance check, also known as the Clunk test. What we're testing here is basically similar to drum brakes when we're talking about the free play. So if you release your brakes on a drum brake trailer and grab the push rod and pull it back and forth with the brakes released, you wanted to see how much clearance you have between the brake lining and the drum. And typically on drum brake we want 3/8 to 5/8 or 3/8 to 3/4 depending on who you ask. Of free play, so your brakes aren't dragging. If the free play was at 1/8, for example, you'd have tight brakes. If the free play was at 1 inch, then you'd probably have excessive brake stroke because the brake has to make up for all that before it starts applying the brakes. So this is similar to that, but this is air disc brakes. So we have rotor and brake pads, and we want to see how loose they are in between. How much looseness there is when the brakes are released. Again, same thing, too tight, we'll have tight brakes and we'll have the brakes dragging on the rotor, and could cause a wheel end fire or cause it to overheat. Too loose, and you don't have effective braking on that side. So we know we have a problem on this side. We have the wheels off. We're going to be replacing the caliper on here. But the way we found this was actually we found it visually, but the test I'm going over is going to illustrate how you could find a problem in your caliper or the adjusting mechanism in your caliper through this test. All right, so our brakes are released right now. You can see the tires are spinning. We got this axle jacked up. So the Clunk test is really simple. You don't need any tools. All you need is some way to release your brakes. I have the machine up there in shop air, but if you have a tractor, you can just go in there and release the brakes. All you're gonna do is grab the brake chamber, all right? And you're gonna move it in and out, in toward you and out away from you toward the tires. And you want, when the brakes are released, you want a little clunk. They say, I forget the exact measurement, but they say about the thickness of a nickel. So you want about this right here. This is a good one. You hear that clunk? It's just a slight clunk. I have a little bit of movement here, and if I had a dial indicator on here, you know, it'd probably be, 20,000, something like that, a little bit more than that. But they say about a thickness of a nickel. All right, I'm gonna jump back to the rear axle quick and show you the rest of these. They have a similar clunk. Right rear. All right, you can hear all these calipers have a similar clunk. Now we go to this one that I know is messed up. Listen to this clunk. You hear how loud that is? Not just loud, there's a lot of movement going back and forth here, a lot more than all of these other units. And that's an indication of a problem in the adjuster mechanism in this caliper. Now, I'm gonna get my flashlight so we can see. You can see this caliper had impact damage right there. You can actually see the roller chain right there. The adjuster mechanism between the two tappets was broken off, so it's not adjusting anymore, and that's a reason for the excessive clearance. So this is pretty obvious right here. You can see damage there, but on other trailers where the adjusting mechanism just fails, the Clunk test is a good way to find it. All right, hopped outside here. I wanted to give you a shot of what's going on here when you're doing the Clunk test here. All right, so we have our brake chamber here. Here's our caliper. We have our rotor and our 2 brake pads that squeeze the rotor when the brakes apply. All right, so we're checking how much gap or how much clearance is between the brake pads and the rotor with this Clunk test. So you see when I move that back and forth, way more than the thickness of a nickel. So that's how you do the Clunk test. You just grab the brake chamber, move it in and out, and see how much is there. If they're all even and they all have about, the thickness of a nickel, everything will be okay. But if you have one that has no movement, or you have one that has a lot of movement and the other ones are right, that'd be reason for a wheels off inspection to see what's going on. So there it is, that's the Clunk test.